What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series driver lineup. We're going to go through all the full-time teams and the part-time teams for 2023. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start by talking about the one car. This will be driven by Ross Chastain once again in 2023. Ross Chastain in 2022 had a pretty big breakout season, scoring 2 victories in 2022 and finishing second in the championship by finishing third at Phoenix, but finishing second in the championship. Ross Chastain will be looking to build on a really strong 2022 by trying to win his first ever NASCAR Cup Series championship. I think Ross Chastain could have a really strong year in 2023, and he looks to have a really good year in 2023. Up next, talk about the 2 car for Team Penske. This will be driven by Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric had a really strong rookie season, one of the best rookie seasons we've seen in recent memory. He scored a win in the Daytona 500 and was able to make it to the round of 12 and almost made it to the round of 8 in 2022. Cindric will be looking to build on a really strong 2022 and be looking to win multiple races in the 2022 season, along with being a championship threat. I don't know if he'll be a championship threat in 2023, but Cindric looks to have a fantastic year and be a threat in 2023. Up next, talk about the 3 car for Richard Childress Racing. This will be driven in 2023 by Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon won a race last year in 2022 at Daytona. Now, Austin Dillon will have some changes coming in 2023 as Keith Rodden will be the new crew chief for Austin Dillon in 2023, as Justin Alexander will not be the crew chief. Very interesting pick, by the way, for them to bring Keith Rodden in. Austin Dillon looks to build on a really strong 2022 and hopes to have a much better 2023 and looks to try to be a threat to win and make the playoffs in 2023. Up next, how about the 4 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This will be driven by Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick in 2022 scored 2 back-to-back victories at Michigan and Richmond, but had a little bit of down year in performance. This could also potentially be Kevin Harvick's final full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series, as 2023 could be the last season for Harvick, as this is the last year in his contract, and Kevin has said that we may know his plans in the coming days and weeks. Harvick looks to have a really strong year and help rebuild Stewart-Haas Racing. They've kind of struggled over the last couple of years. He looks to rebuild the team, and he hopes he can do that and help Stewart-Haas Racing become a great team once again like they used to be just a few years ago. Up next, how about the 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will be driven by Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson's coming off of a little bit of a down year from 2021, where in 2022, Kyle Larson scored 3 victories, but unfortunately got eliminated in the round of 12. Larson looks to have a much better year heading into 2023 and be looking to be a championship threat once again. I think he will be a championship threat, by the way, in 2023. He looks to have a much better year. I think he will definitely be a threat for the championship this upcoming season, and he's definitely one to watch heading into 2023. In the number 5 car, he looks to have a fantastic year, and I think he's one to watch. Up next, how about the 6 car for RFK Racing? This, of course, will be driven by Brad Keselowski. Keselowski's first year at RFK in 2022 was very disappointing. So the hope for Keselowski is that they can improve their organization and improve their craft as a team. I think Keselowski will have a better year in 2023 because they've made some decent, significant changes to that team likely, and I think RFK will get better. Keselowski's always been shown to have much better years after a struggling year. He tends to come back and have a much better season. So I think Brad Keselowski has the potential to really help out RFK Racing once again, be a better team, and bring it back to what they used to be in the late 90s or mid 2000s. He looks to help that team become good once again. Up next, how about the 7 car for Spire Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie is coming off kind of a disappointing season where he kind of struggled throughout the year and didn't have the greatest year in performance. LaJoie, though, I think could improve a little bit in 2023, but there's a lot of competitive cars where I don't think he'll have a fantastic year in the points, but I think he could get some more top 5s and more top 10s this season. I think Spire looks to improve their stuff, and looks like Corey LaJoie will try to make that team better, and he hopes to make the team better and become a much more better team and more consistent up front in the 2023 season. Up next, how about the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing? There's pretty big significant changes coming in 2023, as Tyler Reddick will not be returning his team in 2023, and Kyle Busch will leave Joe Gibbs Racing and will drive for this team this season. Kyle Busch will be looking for some new pastures and be looking to have a much better year than he did in 2022. And I think a new fresh start for him in 2023 is what Kyle Busch really, really needs. I think in 2023, Kyle Busch is going to be a legitimate championship contender. He's going to get the best out of the equipment, and with the new fresh scenery and where he's at, I think he will be absolutely very, very fast in the 2023 season in that number 8 car. I expect it to be really, really strong. That A team looked really, really good with Reddick last year, and I think in 2023, you're going to see a much better Kyle Busch, a driver who's hungry to win, a championship threat, and I expect him to win multiple races in the 2023 season. Up next, how about the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This, of course, once again, will be driven by Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had kind of a Jekyll Hyde season in 2022. He had a really good regular season where he scored 3 or 4 wins in the regular season and was able to make the playoffs. On the other hand, in the playoffs, he only scored 1 win, had 2 top 5s and 3 top 10 finishes, and ended the year by getting spun out by Ross Chastain, though Chase Elliott caused that. In 2023, Chase Elliott looks to improve on that and try to not make mistakes near the end of the season. They look to have better setups, and he looks to once again be a championship threat. And I think he can get back to his ways and be in a championship threat, because I think Chase Elliott, when you think about Chase Elliott, you expect it to be a championship threat, and he looks to be a championship threat once again in 2023. Up next, how about the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This will be driven by Aric Almirola. After initially announcing retirement at the end of 2022, he announced he would come back in 2023. Aric Almirola had a little bit of a quiet season, really. Outside of a couple really good runs, he was kind of quiet and kind of in the middle of the pack like he was in 2021, but he was a little better in 2022 than he was in 2021. The goal for Aric Almirola in 2023 is to try to win. This also could potentially be his final year in the NASCAR Cup Series, as Aric Almirola has an option year past 2023 and in 2024, but he could retire. We'll have to wait and see, but Aric Almirola looks to improve and try to have a better year in 2023. Up next, how about the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This will once again be driven by Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin had a Jekyll Hyde season in 2022. On one hand, the beginning of the year was really, really catastrophic. At one point, he was outside the top 20. On the other hand, near the end of the season, Denny Hamlin had the most points in the playoffs and was really looking strong. He'll be looking to build upon that in 2023. Now, his future past 2023 is kind of uncertain at the moment, as there's a lot of talk about FedEx's future, and they could be out of the sport entirely at the end of this season if they can't get stuff renewed. Though I do think things could get done, that's something to watch going in 2023 as he looks to improve. Up next, how about the 12 car for Team Penske? This, of course, will be driven by Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney had a pretty good year in 2022, but he failed to score a victory. So the goal for Ryan Blaney is to win multiple races and once again be a championship contender, which I think he absolutely will be a championship threat in the 2023 season, as that 12 team looks to win races and looks to be a championship contender throughout the season. I think Ryan Blaney will be a championship threat and looks to have a fantastic year. Heading into the 2023 season, he will be a championship threat. Up next, how about the 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This will be driven by Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe had kind of a little bit of a hit or miss season. He had a great playoffs, but struggled in the regular season and was not that great in the regular season, except getting a win at Phoenix. He looks to improve on that, though, heading into 2023. My big question is, can he do that? That's one thing we're going to have to wait and see what happens. If he can be able to do that, because if he can, I think he's definitely someone to watch throughout the year. Hopefully he can be able to build on his season that he had in 2022 and have a much better 2023, and we'll see if he can do that heading into the season because he looks to improve. Up next, how about the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing? Well, nothing has been announced for Rick Ware Racing currently at the moment. It's expected that the team is going to be very similar to what they were in 2023, but they are going to have a new technical alliance with RFK Racing. My expectation for this ride is that they're going to have drivers like Joey Hand, Joey Gase, and JJ Yeley drive in this car because they basically drove for Rick Ware Racing last year in this car, and I think they're going to keep the same stuff that they've had except in a change in the alliance. I think that's what's going to happen in 2023, and I'm not really expecting many major significant changes to the Rick Ware Racing group. There's not much, I think, changes with this team except that they will be a two-car team once again. Up next, how about the 16 car for Kaulig Racing? This will once again be driven by AJ Allmendinger, who's back in the Cup Series full-time for the first time since 2018. AJ made select starts in 2022, where he had a really good end of the year, and I think he will be an underdog for the title this season. Now, I'm not thinking he's going to win the championship this year, but I think AJ will be very, very fast, and I expect the 16 car to be really, really strong and really, really quick throughout the year. So I think AJ will win a race, and I think Kaulig Racing will be a team that continues to improve and be up front. I think AJ is going to be quick, and it'll be very, very fast this season in 2023. Watch for AJ. Up next, how about the 17 car for RFK Racing? This will once again be driven by Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher in 2022 scored one victory at Bristol and was really strong on the road courses in the super speedways. On the other hand, RFK Racing has some struggles throughout 2022, but I think that in 2023, we are going to see a much improved Chris Buescher as he looks to improve, and he's going to be with the team for at least the next few years for sure. He's a future franchise driver of this team long term, which is a great thing for the team to have a future franchise driver. Buescher looks to improve, looks to have a much better year, and he hopes to have a much better year and be more consistent in 2023. Up next, how about the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This will once again be driven by Martin Truex Jr. Now, 2023 could be the last year for Martin Truex Jr., as he initially was potentially going to retire at the end of 2022, but he announced at the National weekend that he would be returning. The goal for Martin Truex Jr. is to make the playoffs and win, because he failed to win for the first time since 2014 in 2022. So Martin Truex Jr. looks to improve. Now, he's aging, and I think he's been falling off over the last couple of years, so the goal for him in 2023 is to really try to improve. Martin Truex Jr. looks to do better, and he hopes to be better, and I think he could be better, but we'll have to wait and see if he can improve, because like I said, he kind of struggled, and he hopes to do better in the 2023 season. Hopefully he can do that and improve. Up next, how about the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This will once again be driven by Christopher Bell. Now, Christopher Bell in 2022 had a massive breakout season. He scored 3 victories, 2 clutch victories at the Charlotte Roval in Martinsville, and also 1 at New Hampshire. Christopher Bell is a driver that I think long-term is going to be the future of Joe Gibbs Racing, as in potentially at the end of 2023, he could be the oldest driver at the team. He'll be around 30 years old by the end of 2023 or 2024, so we'll have to see what happens there with the other drivers of the team. But Christopher Bell looks to improve and looks to be a championship threat heading into the 2023 season. I think he's got a lot of potential to do that, and I think he could be someone to watch for the championships going forward for Joe Gibbs Racing. Up next, how about the 21 car for the Wood brothers? This will be driven by Harrison Burton once again. Now, Harrison Burton's rookie year was pretty disastrous. He didn't run that great, had a 22nd place average finish, only got 1 or 2 top 10s, both of those based on attrition. It was very struggling throughout the year. Now, 2023, I think Harrison Burton is going to slightly improve. He's going to have less DNFs, and he's going to be up front a little more consistently, and his average finish, I think, is going to improve. But I don't expect Harrison Burton to be a championship threat anytime soon, and long-term, he could really become a great driver for this team, but we'll have to wait and see what happens, and he looks to improve in 2023. Up next, how about the 22 car for Team Penske? This, of course, will be driven by Joey Logano. Joey Logano, of course, the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, scored 3 or 4 victories in 2022, and we'll be looking to improve in the 2023 season and looking to actually have a much better year. Now, I don't think Logano is going to be as good in 2023 as he was in 2022. As generally in odd years, Joe Logano is not as good. But I do think Joe Logano will still have a very solid year. I think it will still be a championship contender this season, and I really think Logano will be fast throughout the year. So he hopes to look to improve, and I think Logano could have a chance to do good, and I think he could improve, which would be crazy for him to improve, but we'll see what he can do in the 2023 season. Up next, how about the 23 car for 23XI Racing? This will be driven by Bubba Wallace once again. Bubba Wallace had a Jekyll and Hyde season in 2022, where the beginning of the year was not that good, outside of a great finish in the 500, where he nearly won the 500, and a great finish at Kansas. Bubba Wallace did kind of struggle throughout the year. But in 2022, at the end of the year, he was really good, to the point where he's fast and got a win at Kansas. The goal for Bubba Wallace in 2023 is to start the year off as good as he ended 2022. If he could do that, I think he easily can make the playoffs in 2023 and can be up front. I think Bubba Wallace is definitely one to watch, and we'll see what he can be able to do, and I think he's got a lot of potential to accomplish a lot of great things in the sport and lead the sport to the future, and he also needs to control that temper he had near the end of the 2022 season. Up next, how about the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This, of course, will be driven by William Byron. William Byron had kind of a hit-or-miss year. William Byron in 2022 got 2 victories and was one of the championship threats early, but by the end of the year, he kind of struggled, especially during the summer, where he only got 1 top 10 finish in a stretch of 18 races. But I really do think that William Byron is going to have a pretty good year. I think he improves consistently. I think he gets 1 win in 2022, but he's going to be 3. But I think he's going to be a much better driver consistency-wise, and I think he will be someone to watch for the championship this year. I think he's got a chance to improve, and I think he can improve on 2022, where he did struggle. Up next, how about the 26 car for Team Hagesburg? While nothing is official around the 26 car at this point, it's anticipated they potentially could run this car in the 500 in some races. My prediction will be is that Danny Kvyat will be the driver of this car. Danny Kvyat has said publicly that he wants to run some select races next year again. He would love to run more NASCAR races. So I think he will enter in this car in 2023 and be looking to get more experience. He had an impressive debut in the Xfinity Series with Sam Hunt Racing. Was decent in the Cup races, though they had electrical issues. And I think he'll drive this car in 2023. Up next, how about the 27 car for Team Hagesburg? Well, nothing's also official for this team yet. I'm anticipating that Larice Hasemans is going to drive this car. Larice drove this car and won every race except one of them that he entered. That car was driven by Jacques Villeneuve. And maybe Jacques Villeneuve does make a start in the 27 car. But at this point, nothing is guaranteed, and we'll have to wait and see. But my expectation is Larice Hasemans will drive this car in 2023, and I think he'll make select starts in this car as Team Hagesburg tries to improve and become a team that runs on most consistent weeks in the future. Up next, how about the 30 car for 3F Racing? While no drivers have been announced and they would love to have Christopher Tate and Ryan Vargas in the car, this team has said that they are going to run select races in 2023. My prediction is that Justin Allgaier is going to drive this car at Atlanta. The plan for them to debut is Atlanta, so they will not make their debut in the Daytona 500 unless at the last minute they decide to change their minds. They're going to run around 10 races this year. I think they run Justin Allgaier for all of them, and maybe in the future they get Ryan Vargas and Christopher Tate the opportunity to drive. But at this point, I would think Justin Allgaier will be the driver. Up next, how about the 31 car for Kaulig Racing? This car, of course, will be driven by Justin Haley. Justin Haley's coming off a very solid year in 2022, where he scored, I think, 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s. Justin Haley's a driver that a lot of people did not have expectations for, so for him to run as good as he did in 2022 was actually surprising. It was really good in the playoffs as well, had one of the best average finishes in the playoffs. I do think that Justin Haley will actually improve on 2022. Now, I don't think he'll make the playoffs, but I think he'll improve, especially with AJ coming on to be a driver for the team this year on a full-time basis. I think he'll be very, very solid, and I think he'll be really good here in 2023 and looks to improve on a pretty solid 2022 season. Up next, how about the 33 car for Richard Childress Racing? While nothing's official on this car, Richard Childress has said publicly that he would love to enter a third RCR car. My prediction would be is that it would probably be between maybe Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed, though Austin Hill will make select starts for another team. We'll get into here just a little bit. My prediction is that it will most likely be Sheldon Creed, though, who makes starts in that car because he's going to be back with the team next year on a full-time basis, and I think that he'll make select starts in the 33 car. Maybe they'll get someone else, like a veteran, to drive, but my prediction is that it will be Sheldon Creed driving his car. Up next, how about the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports? This car will once again be driven by Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell had a pretty good year, actually. He had a lot of top 10s, some top 5s, and had a career year, except he did not win a race, but every other statistical category, McDowell was good. In fact, he had some of the highest number of top 10s of any driver. Now, he'll have a crew chief change this year, as Travis Peterson is going to be the crew chief this year, and not Blake Harris, who's moving over to work with Alex Bowman next season, which is something I'm a little worried about for him going into 2023, but I think he can overcome that and can become a pretty good driver once again in the 2023 season, so he hopes to improve. I think he's going to have a really solid chance to improve in 2023. Up next, how about the 36 car for Front Row Motorsports? While nothing's official on the number that Zane Smith's going to run, my anticipation is that he is going to drive the number 36 car, as that is a number that Front Row Motorsports has used when they've entered a third car. And that car, like I said, will be driven by Zane Smith, who, of course, will make a run in the Daytona 500. This will not be his first Cup Series race, as he ran the Gateway race in 2022 in substitution for Chris Buescher. But I think Zane Smith is going to drive this car, the number 36 car, and I think he will make select starts throughout the year. We know he's going to make select starts, and I think he'll do a pretty solid job in those races at Front Row. Up next, how about the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports? This course, once again, will be driven by Todd Gillen. Now, similar to Michael McDowell, Todd Gillen is going to have a new crew chief this year. Ryan Burgundy is going to be the crew chief for Todd Gillen in 2023. The goal for Todd Gillen is to improve on kind of a not-so-great 2022. I think he's got a chance to improve on that, but it's something that we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Hopefully he can improve, and I think Todd Gillen does have a solid shot and a decent opportunity to improve. Hopefully he can do that, and hopefully he can improve on a not-so-great year in 2022. Outside of a couple solid runs, it's kind of a difficult year for Todd Gilliland. Up next, how about the 41 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? There are big changes coming to this car in 2023 as Ryan Preece moves up from the Truck Series where he drove part-time for DGR and will drive full-time in the 41 car in 2023 as Cole Custer moves down to the Xfinity Series to drive the 00 car. Ryan Preece will have Chad Johnson as a crew chief in 2023. This will be the first time that Chad Johnson has been in the Cup Series, I think, since 2020, which is a very solid crew chief for Ryan Preece to work with, considering he and Ryan Preece did a really good job working together. I think Ryan Preece is going to be an underdog to make the playoffs. I don't think he'll make the playoffs in 2023, but I do think he'll be an underdog throughout the year. He always gets the best out of equipment, and I think he'll do a much better job in this car than what Cole Custer did. We'll see what happens going into the year. He will hopefully have a good year, though, in 2023. Up next, how about the 42 car for Petty GMS? There's some new changes coming to this car, as Noah Gragson is going to drive the 42 car for Petty GMS in 2023. Noah Gragson in 2022 had a really strong Xfinity Series season where he scored 8 wins and finished second in the championship to Ty Gibbs. Noah Gragson also made select Cup Series starts in 2022, and let's be honest, his starts in 2022 were not as impressive. I think Noah Gragson, though, will be better because I think he'll be with a better team, and I think he'll have some really good runs in the 2023 year. I think he'll be an underdog to make the playoffs as well, and someone who I think could look at a driver like someone we'll talk about in a second and be looking to improve. Hopefully, he'll be able to accomplish that and do that in 2023. Up next, how about the 43 car for Petty GMS? This, of course, will be driven by Eric Jones. Eric Jones had a pretty impressive 2022 year, one of the most underrated seasons, in my opinion. Eric Jones scored a win in the Southern 500, had quite a few top 5s, and had a lot of top 10s in 2022. The goal for Eric Jones is to make the playoffs. I think he barely just misses it in 2023, but I think he's going to have a very solid year in 2023, where I think he's going to be in the conversation to run up front a lot more. I think he's going to be one of the 10 or 12 best guys a lot of this year, but I think sadly you're just going to have to win early in the year, which I think he'll win early in the year in Talladega, but I don't think he'll be consistent enough to get the points required to make it. But I think Eric Jones has a good year and will be up front a lot throughout the year. Up next, how about the 45 car for 23XI Racing? There's some pretty big changes coming to this car, as Kurt Busch will not be driving this car in 2023. Instead, it's going to be driven by Tyler Reddick, who comes over a year early after driving for Rich Schultz Racing in 2022. He was initially supposed to drive his car in 2024. Tyler Reddick is a driver who had a really strong year in 2022, scoring 3 victories and unfortunately getting eliminated in the round of 16. Tyler Reddick, though, looks to have new scenery. A new change of scenery is always a good thing sometimes, and I think Reddick will be very, very strong at this team. He always gets the best out of equipment, and his 45 car, whether Bubba drove it or whether Kurt Busch drove it, it was up front. I think Reddick is going to win 3 races this season. I think he wins both Kansas races, and I think he will win at Las Vegas in the fall, where I think he'll be very, very strong and have a chance to make the playoffs. I watch for Tyler Reddick because I think he's going to be really, really strong. I think he's going to be a championship contender throughout the year, and I think Reddick will be very, very strong throughout the season. Up next, how about the 47 car for JTG Doherty Racing? This, of course, will be driven this upcoming season by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. once again. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a very bad season. While he did get some top 5s and top 10s, he had the most DNFs of anybody in the field in 2022. Where he scored had 10 DNFs, which, like I said, is the most of anybody in the Cup Series field. Now, to Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s credit, he will have a new crew chief this season as Brian Petty goes to work with KBM next year, and he will have a new crew chief, which is a former crew chief of his, Mike Kelly. Now, something I'm a little bit worried about for Stenhouse is new crew chief changes, but hopefully Ricky can kind of overcome some of the issues they had in 2022 and can do better in 2023. I'm not so convinced they will, but I think he's got a chance to do it, and we'll see what he can do in 2023. He looks to improve in 2023. As he's in his mid-30s now, he looks to improve on a kind of a disappointing 2022 year. Up next, how about the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Alex Bowman. Now, in 2022, Alex Bowman had a very disappointing year. Unfortunately, missed part of the year. He did win at Vegas, but he had a very bad summer stretch. And then, of course, other things kind of happened where he missed near the end of the year. Now, Alex Bowman has some changes coming in 2023 as he has a new crew chief, that being Blake Harris, who is a really, really strong crew chief who will probably help Alex Bowman out. But sadly, I don't think Alex Bowman makes the playoffs in 2023. I just don't think that the chemistry is going to work straight away, but I think by the end of the year, the chemistry is going to work great. Also, Alex Bowman's in a contract year, as contract talks are still going on right now behind the scenes. Hopefully things can get worked out there and Bowman can return. It all depends on Ally and if they want to stick around or not. Bowman, though, looks to try to improve, have a better 2023 than he did in 2022. He'll probably need to win a race, and I don't think he'll win a race to make the playoffs, but I think Bowman still has a good year, though, in 2023. Up next, how about the 49 car for Petty GMS? While the number has not been announced for Jimmie Johnson at this point, a lot of people think at this point the number is going to be 49 for Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie Johnson is now a co-owner of Petty GMS and will make select starts in 2023, including in the Daytona 500, but the rest schedule will be announced in the coming days and weeks. Jimmie Johnson is one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. In fact, in my personal opinion, he is the greatest NASCAR driver of all time. The goal for Jimmie Johnson in 2023 is to just have fun. He's not here to win races, not here to win championships. He's just out there to have a good time and have fun and help Petty GMS become a great team once again. I think he's going to have a good chance to do that, help the team out, make them really, really good. And maybe we'll see other drivers drive this car, but we'll see Jimmie Johnson drive quite a few races next year, 5 to 6 races, and looks to do good in 2023. Up next, how about the 50 car for the Money Team Racing? Well, nothing has been officially announced at this point for the Money Team. It sounds like they're going to run more races than they did in 2022. In 2023, they're going to run around 6 to 7 races in 2023. For most of the time, it'll be Connor Daly. However, it does sound like Julio Castroneves could be a very big possibility to drive this car in the Daytona 500, who wants to race in the Daytona 500 in 2023. The goal for the Money Team long-term is for them to be full-time. They look to have a better season. Connor Daly, who wants to run there. So you have 2 IndyCar drivers who drove IndyCar last year, driving in this series. I think it's going to be really exciting for both those guys to get some select NASCAR Cup Series starts in 2023. And it's good to see that the Money Team is going to enter races in 2023. Up next, how about the 51 car for Rick Ware Racing? While nothing's been announced about the 51 car, I would anticipate that Cody Ware, who I think has already been confirmed at this point, Cody Ware will likely be once again, though, in the 51 car once again. Now, Cody Ware in 2022, very disappointing year. Was not up front a lot. But he did have a better average finish in 2022 than he did in 2021. So ultimately, the goal in 2023 is for Cody Ware to improve and do better in the season. I think he's got a chance to do that, and hopefully he will be able to do that and help Rick Ware Racing get back and hopefully be up front like they've been in other series. The goal for him is to help Rick Ware Racing improve. Up next, how about the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This car will be, once again, there's some new changes coming in this number as the 18 car goes away, and this will be driven by Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs won the Xfinity Series Championship in 2022 and made select Cup starts in 2022, albeit they were not that impressive driving for 23-11. 2023 for Ty Gibbs is going to be a massive learning curve. He's going to be going into a car that he has not driven for really too much. He's a car that kind of struggled with in Cup in 2022 and will be in a learning curve. I think a lot of people should not expect him to make the playoffs. If he wins a race and makes the playoffs, that's extremely impressive, especially for a 20-year-old rookie who has a lot of talent and a lot of potential, but he can also sometimes be way in over his head and can make a lot of mistakes. It's something that we're going to be watching throughout the 2023 season, and hopefully he can improve on that heading into 2023. Up next, how about the 61 car for Kaulig Racing? Well, nothing's been announced around Kaulig Racing entering a third car. Brett Griffin indicated on the Door Bumper Clear podcast a couple of weeks ago that he indicated that Kaulig will have a third car, and Brett will be basically spotting in that third car. My prediction right now is that it's going to be Daniel Hemrick who drives this car. Daniel Hemrick drives this car, basically drove part-time for Kaulig and Cup last year, has sponsorship funding, and also drives full-time for them in the Xfinity Series. So at this point, I'm thinking that Daniel Hemrick will drive this car for pretty much all the races. Maybe Landon Castle gets an opportunity to drive this car. But I'm thinking at this particular point that we are going to see Daniel Hemrick drive his third Kaulig Racing car. It's good that they're going to enter a third car and expand. I thought there was a chance it could happen, and it looks like they will enter a third car in 2023 on a part-time basis. Up next, how about the 62 car for the Beard Motorsports? Beard Motorsports is going to be having some changes coming in 2023, as Austin Hill will drive his car in 6 races in 2023. Those races are the Daytona 500, Daytona Fall Race, both Talladega races at Michigan, and the Chicago Street Course. I think it's really exciting they are expanding their schedule heading into 2023. I like seeing teams expand their schedules and run more races. It's more fun to see, and it's great for the sport if teams can expand their schedules. They'll be looking to make Daytona 500, and I think they've got a really good shot and a really good possibility of making the Daytona 500. Up next, we're talking about the 66 car for NBM Motorsports. Well, nothing's been announced around NBM Motorsports camp at this point. They always tend to run the Daytona 500. I think, will run the 500 and a couple other races, and my prediction is that Timmy Hill is going to drive this car in 2023 in the select races. Timmy has a lot of history driving for NBM Motorsports. I can see J.J. Lee getting an opportunity to drive this car, but I think for a lot of the year, they're going to have Timmy Hill driving it, and I think that's what's going to happen in 2023, and they'll run this car, I think, on a part-time basis. Up next, how about the 77 car for Aspire Motorsports? There's some changes coming to this car, as Ty Dillon is going to drive this car in 2023. After a very disappointing tenure at Petty GMS, Ty Dillon will be looking to have a much better tenure over at Aspire Motorsports, which, let's be for real, Aspire Motorsports, they're not the fastest team in the world. If Ty Dillon can improve and do better what he did at Petty GMS, I think that's really impressive, by the way, because like I said, I don't think Aspire is the fastest team in the world. If he can help that team become good, that'd be great for his sport. Hopefully he can do that, and hopefully he can make the 77 car fast again and make them better. I think they will be better a little bit, but the competition's really stiff, and it's going to be tough to do great with Spire. Up next, how about the 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports? There are some changes coming in his team in 2023, as we're going to see Josh Bilicki join this team in 2023. His first race will be at COTA, and will drive in a lot of races with the team in 2023. In addition to that, we're going to see them switch over and run Chevys. They'll have ECR engines in 2023, which will hopefully be able to help and improve the team in 2023. I think also would think that BJ McLeod is going to make select starts with the team in 2023. We'll see what other races they decide to enter, but there's some big changes coming to that team, and hopefully be able to help out Live Fast Motorsports become more impressive and become better in 2023. Up next, how about the 91 car for Trackhouse Racing? This, of course, will be the Project 91 car. While nothing's been officially announced on drivers who will drive for the car, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of drivers driving in this car. Potentially, Cash Nevis could drive this car, but it sounds like he's more focused on driving for the money team than driving for Project 91 for the ride. Shane Van Gisbergen's name has been brought up into conversation as well. He could drive this ride. Brady Kosecki's name has been brought up into conversation. Marcus Erickson, Joseph Newgarden, among other drivers, have shown interest in driving the Project 91 car. It's exciting to see that the 91 car wants to make a return, including maybe Kimi Räikkönen as well. And we'll see who decides to run the Project 91 car in 2023. Up next, how about the 97 car for 2311 Racing? While nothing's been announced about a third 2311 Racing car, 2311 has indicated they will enter a third car if Kurt Busch is medically cleared to race. I would think the number would be 97, considering that's a number that's been historical to Kurt Busch. Kurt wants to race part-time. He didn't announce official retirement from racing. He just announced retirement from full-time racing. But Kurt still wants to race. He wants to race in Australia. He's been in Australia as of recently. And he also wants to race in Le Mans and race at Darlington and Watkins Glen. There also could be other drivers who get an opportunity to drive this car in 2023. We'll see what happens in regards to this car, but it sounds like this car will be a thing in 2023. And finally, for 2023, we're going to talk about Daniel Suarez, who will be driving the number 99 car for Trackhouse Racing. Daniel Suarez had a breakout year in 2022, got a win at Sonoma, and was up front and made it to the round of 12, and just barely missed out on making the round of 8. And if not for a power steering issue, he would have easily made it to the round of 8. He looks to have a really strong year and improve, and I think Trackhouse is going to be a better team. He could be an underdog for the championship in 2023, and I think that Daniel Suarez will be very, very fast throughout the year. I think he's 100% definitely one to watch throughout the year, and I think Daniel Suarez will be a very strong driver this year and will be up front in many races in 2023. So, that is going to be it for the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series driver lineup. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, notifications on so be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my Patreon as well. Links are down below over that, and comment your thoughts below on today's video. What are your thoughts about the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series driver lineup? Who are you excited about to see, and who do you think will win the championship? Let me know in the comments below. Today is my birthday, so if you want to wish me happy birthday in the comments, I would definitely really appreciate that. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to get back to the normal stuff, doing NASCAR news content. I would anticipate there'll be NASCAR news over the next couple of days, but you'll just have to focus on and wait and see what comes out on the channel. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.